Welcome to the Jared Williams Show. Today, I'm giving away everything I used to build my Pricebook that's responsible for over $17 million and has helped scale my business to over $5 million a year. And by the end of this episode, you'll be able to add at least $100K in revenue. If you follow along, stick till the end. But first, what's up, Joel?
What's up, Jared? How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah, it is good.
I'm doing really well.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
guess.
Yeah, why so many reallys?
I don't know. I've been having fun lately. It's like my whole life got a lot easier.
Yeah, because you sold your business and now you're just like
It's weird.
free or something.
Yeah, it's weird because that didn't take much of my attention.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to look at things with a different mindset too.
What's your mindset?
Just not that I always got to be pushing so hard on stuff.
As we're about to push really hard on this power washing business.
I mean, kind of, but I think I can do it in a much. So I find myself habitually, I will sit down to work and I will just keep working and I'll like find work to do.
Sure.
It's stuff that may or may not need to be done and I'll just keep doing it. And in reality, I could probably just take a chill pill and go have some fun.
Yeah. It was kind of cool because then I can then come in and occupy the pushing hard on the business from just the doing the stuff.
It's so much easier too now.
Sure, of course.
Than it was the last time.
Yeah, well, when you know a bunch of stuff, not only do you know a bunch of stuff, but you're really confident in the stuff that you know.
Yes.
Then it just makes it a lot. The certainty level goes up, and when you have higher certainty, then kind of everything is a little bit easier.
Yep, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, well, not all of that, but we're going to talk about a portion of what I've learned. And if you take your business and you split it up into 5 pieces, 5 pieces, dude, every time I got to remember like 5 something, I'll remember 4.
Pieces. Oh, yeah.
And the 5th one, I'm like,
We'll see what one we forget today.
No, I got them this time. But any home service business, doesn't matter if you're a plumber, an electrician, you clean houses, you own a pressure washing company, you are an HVAC guy, you replace door locks, you change light bulbs, you're a handyman, you're anything where you're going to a home and you're providing a service that requires somebody to go there and do a thing, and you're charging the customer money for it. There's 5 systems that you have to have in place.
Okay.
This is new for me to develop this into just like, okay, here's the 5 things you need.
Sure.
You need a marketing system. We'll call it a customer acquisition system.
Yeah, sounds cooler.
Okay, because it's not like people. There's more to customer acquisition than just marketing.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes marketing can be defined differently by the person who's hearing it.
Right. Marketing is in there.
Sure.
But
of course.
there's more to it than just marketing.
Yeah.
So you need a customer acquisition system. Then you need you really need a call center system. So like, how do you get, when the customers reach out to you, how do you take them from reach out to you to a guy at the house? That's your call center system. Okay. And then you need a fulfillment system. So now how do we fulfill on that promise that we promised them? Like we got a guy at their house. How does that look from the time the guy leaves or starts going to the house to the time he collects the money?
Yeah, sure.
That's your fulfillment system. Within there, there's different systems, but all in all, it's your fulfillment system. And then you need a follow-up system as well. So how do we follow up on all those jobs? Some jobs you're going to go to, you're going to do a good job. Some jobs you go to, you're not going to do a good job. Some jobs you go to, you're not going to sell. Some jobs you're going to sell one thing, but not another thing. You always want to follow up with your customers and make sure you're doing a good job. Reach out and make sure they don't want to buy that thing from you. Very important part of your business is to follow up.
Sure.
And then on top of all that, none of this makes sense without your financial system.
Sure.
So today we're going to talk about the financial system. It's my favorite system. And we've talked about it a lot in the past, but never from the viewpoint of today.
Dude, is that a Kamala Harris line? That's like a Kamala.
I'm stealing.
Oh, man. That's a good steal.
I've been watching too much Kamala.
Yeah. Kamala.
President. Somebody said something about camel toe and her name and the way it was said. I wish I could remember it, but it was really funny. If anybody knows what it is, comment it down below. Yeah, we're going to talk about it kind of from a unique perspective because, you know, I started my business on one financial system.
Oh, sure.
And then switched to another financial system. And we've talked about both independently.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And really not like the entire financial system altogether.
Sure.
Like we're going to go into your Pricebook and all that stuff. But we've never talked about when to use which one and what are the advantages and disadvantages at what times.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's going to be different if you're just starting out versus if you're doing 3 or 4 million. There's going to be a different system that I think you should use.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready to go. I'm sitting here paying attention.
Okay. I don't really know where to start.
In the beginning.
Let's do that.
Well, or yeah, I guess we could either start in the beginning or just broadly lay out what you even need to have a financial system.
So your financial system is basically what ensures that you have profit, right? And motivated people in your business. It's like how the money works in your business, okay?
How the money works in your business.
How the money works in your business.
Okay,
So any money, like money going out, money coming in, your P&L, all that good stuff. You need a system for it, okay? Can't be a willy-nilly kind of thing.
Can you give me an example of like a willy-nilly kind of thing? So
Going,
I can have like a
going
contrast?
rate for drain clean is $159.
Okay, gotcha.
That's willy-nilly. So
Yeah.
I'm going to charge $159 or whatever. I'm going to charge $165 or I'm going to charge $150. I feel like customers are going to buy this at $222. That's willy-nilly.
Yeah, it's just kind of based upon feeling or what is happening in your industry, in your area, et cetera, et cetera.
Screw all that. Forget about all that crap. And actually use a system and numbers to figure out the math to make sure you're charging enough so that you make money on every single job.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, a lot of guys, for some reason, I see this all the freaking time. They want to start a plumbing business where they only do water heaters.
They love it. Well, it's kind of like I feel like it's HVAC and install work too.
True.
Where it's like you just want the thing that they know they make a lot of money on it, and it's like big numbers. And so then the thinking is like, well, if I get a bunch of big number things, I'll make a ton of cash.
The thing is it's like we're going to talk gross margin here.
Okay.
If you make 60% gross margin on a water heater install and you make 60% gross margin on...
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Oh, gosh.
Well, come on. I'm sorry. I mean, you know.
This is never going to work.
Well, that's why you got to explain it to me and then it'll work.
So gross margin would be on your P&L. You've got top line revenue. That's 100% of what you brought in.
Yeah.
So if you sold one water heater for $4,000...
Like the whole thing, not just the water heater, but like the whole water heater installation.
Okay. Start to finish was $4,000. The customer paid you $4,000 and you tore out their old water heater and put a new one in. Doesn't matter what kind of water heater it is. We're not going to get into that detail.
Okay.
What's fun? Yeah. Because some people, if this was like on Facebook, people would be like, well, I mean, what kind of water heater, blah, 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 did you put
I would
in?
have done it.
What brand would you have done on, blah, blah.
I would. That doesn't make any sense, Jared, because doop. Missed the point completely.
Maybe if you're putting in something power event, I don't even know what you're talking about half the time.
Yeah.
And I make way more money than they do. So, well, I don't know that, but I'm just guessing.
True.
So you put in a water heater and it's $4,000. Okay. Your top line revenue, let's say that's all you did.
Yeah. Just one thing.
One whole month. Yep. One water heater.
This is a dope month.
Top line revenue, $4,000.
Okay. Got it.
It's going to say total sales, total revenue, total something.
My bookkeeper that I've hired because I'm super awesome is going to give me this beautiful P&L with my top line 4K revenue right now.
Yes. It might say gross sales, gross revenue.
Sure.
Whatever. It's the top of the line. Underneath that, you have your COGS. COGS stands for cost of goods sold. I like how I have to do this. It's like in my head. I'm visualizing it.
Yeah, well, because that's how it's structured. Because you're thinking about your P&L.
Yeah. So underneath that, you have your COGS. COGS is cost of goods sold. the things you sell to the customer are considered COGS. Okay. So you do not sell a van to the customer. You do not sell gas in your van to the customer. You do not sell equipment to the customer. We are in the business of buying and reselling skilled labor and materials.
Sure.
So in your COGS, and sometimes subcontractors as well.
Sure, of course.
So in your COGS, you need materials, skilled labor, subcontractors.
Gotcha.
I lump subcontractors into materials. That's how I roll with mine.
Just because it makes it simpler?
Yeah. I mean, we have it split up on our P&L, and which I would recommend.
Sure.
But whenever I'm like going and figuring my percentages, I just add materials and subs together.
Okay, gotcha.
And keep that under 20%.
Okay, gotcha.
We don't hire a ton of subs, so it's not that big of a deal. You have your COGS, and what you're doing is on your P&L, it's subtracting the COGS out of the total revenue. So let's say the water heater was $1,000.
Okay.
And the technician that you paid to put that in was, let's say it was $1,000 in labor to put that $4,000 water heater in.
Okay.
Just for easy math.
I like easy math.
Okay. Your gross profit is what you have left over after you pay for your COGS. Okay.
Okay.
This is the number that you need to focus on in your business. Because if you can learn how to manipulate your gross profit, you are awesome. You have that is like the skill in business. How do I manipulate? How do I get that gross profit number higher? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you can get that up and overhead stays the same, your net profit goes up by the same percentage. But when you're talking dollar amounts, if you take your gross profit from 50% to 60%, that's a 10% increase, right? But on the bottom line, net profit, if your overhead didn't change to do that, which typically it doesn't,
right? Yeah, sure.
Then you're gonna that 10% is gonna drop all the way down to net profit, bottom line net. So if you were running at 10%, let's say, and you did $1 million in revenue, you'd have $100,000 net profit. Well, if you increase your gross margin by 10% from 50 to 60, and it drops all the way to the bottom, you just doubled your money.
Sure. Yeah.
You went from 100,000 gross or net profit to 200,000 net profit, right? By going from 10 to 20%. So at the end of the day, that small change to your gross had a huge impact on the bottom, cash wise, like dollar amount wise.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it's the best game you can play is how do I get that gross margin up? That should be like your number one concern.
Yeah, how do you get the gross margin up? What if I'm like, I have like obscenely large overhead? Like if we're talking about like money to my bottom line, couldn't I also just be like, oh dang, my overhead's super fat. I got like 40% overhead.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
Then I can just chop that up somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the easy part.
Yeah, sure. That's the easy part because you can just look at the percentage and you're like, whoa, that doesn't make any sense. Let's figure that out.
Well, if you're fat on overhead, the fix is super simple.
Get rid of overhead.
Get rid of overhead.
Yeah.
And so that's the easy part.
Yeah.
Fixing your gross margin, that's tougher.
Yeah.
Because you get into, like, we can't just pay less. We can't just cut costs and pay our guys less.
Right.
We can't really just cut costs and get materials cheaper. A lot of guys try. They want to buy in bulk and all this crap.
Yeah. Try to engineer these really complicated systems to not really gain anything.
Yep. And even just controlling material costs, so controlling material waste. They'll come up with all these crazy systems to control material waste.
Yeah, maybe some complex inventory management systems and warehousing craziness and all that good stuff. That seems in theory like a good idea, but in reality it just starts to suck, especially at low levels of scale.
So a lot of times you will inflate your overhead to increase margin, but if you increase margin and inflate overhead at the same rate, it doesn't do you any good because none of it makes it down to the bottom line.
Yeah, because then your increase of overhead now, you're essentially like, cool, I'm using this extra margin to pay for the new overhead I got, and then I make the same money at the end of the day.
Yep.
But then meanwhile, you probably just introduce unnecessary complexity.
Yes. So the name of the game is run lean, mean, efficient, and simple. That should be your motto across the board.
Yeah.
Like, can I put one system in place that takes care of all of this stuff instead of 30 systems in place?
Yeah, sure.
It's like for everybody, for the plumbers and electricians and HVAC guys, we all see this in the field. There's the guy. I had one of these in my business. I just sold my business for everybody who didn't see the last, I don't know, like 3 episodes. And now I don't know what to call it.
What do you mean?
I don't.
Can't
I
call
say
it your
like
business?
I had one of these guys in my business. I guess that makes sense.
Probably just say whatever. You'll figure it out.
There's weird things I haven't thought about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Language. Words.
had one of these guys in my business, and everybody knows who I'm talking about because you've all worked with a guy like this, where they have their truck absolutely freaking packed with every nut and bolt and piece and part.
It's like the just in case guy.
The just in case. And his van, when it's driving down the road, the rear is like sunk down like a foot or 2 feet.
Because
It's
like,
dragging.
I had to bring an extra of this thing just in case.
Just in case I needed it.
One time I got screwed. I was 25 miles outside of anywhere. No cell service.
Yep.
That's why I bring 4 of these.
Dude, yeah. And there's guys
Sure.
there's guys that do that.
Yep.
I was always the guy, I was like, okay, if it has one use, I'm not going to carry it unless I use it all the time. I'm going to carry things that have multiple uses. Even if that means that I have to like cut more piping back to be able to make a repair, I would rather do that and keep my truck lean and mean and efficient because it's easier to keep stocked. It's easier to know where stuff is at. I know exactly when I go out there how I'm going to go about doing what I'm going to do because I only have these parts to do it with.
Yeah, sure. You don't have, you're not reinventing the wheel or you're not like digging through mounds of useless
That's
things.
the thing. The guy that did that didn't even know what was in his van half the time.
Sure, because eventually you just thought, well, I could use this. It's
Yeah.
like when I was working at the air service, it'd be the same thing would be the guy who'd always wanted to keep scraps of whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was a big fan of like, hey, this junk shelf we've had for 5 years, we should just throw everything away. And I have the guy be like, it's so funny, this guy.
We call this the junk shelf that we put junk on.
Yeah, and then the guy...
Why don't we just junk it in the trash
Yeah,
can?
so I like made this announcement. I was like, we're going to get rid of the junk shelf today by the end of the day. So if there's anything you want to take home because you like to store stuff, then please be my guest. And then my coworker, his name was Wes, real cool guy, lives down here somewhere in Florida. He's always talking about going squatching, which is
Squatching?
yeah, looking for Sasquatch in the woods.
Oh, gosh.
He's a super cool guy, old guy, but he'd be like, he pulls me aside, he's like, Joel, what if we need some of that stuff? And I was like, Wes, if we need it, we will go and get it. But I'm gonna throw away everything on that shelf because it's absolutely unnecessary.
Yep.
And
if
then,
I had a piece of pipe in my van that got less than 5 feet, I threw it in the dumpster.
because it just becomes a burden.
It does. It gets. I would put it in a piece of pipe, and then it's so far in I can't reach it, and it's like, and then I just get 30 of them jammed in there. And someday I got to pull it all apart. Just throw that in the garbage. Forget about it.
Yeah.
If you're using 5 feet of pipe, charge the customer for the whole 10 feet. You ding dong, and then throw the other 5 feet away.
Okay.
I didn't save scraps either, like scrap copper. Some of my guys will save their scrap copper
For what?
to go turn it in and get paid for it.
Oh my gosh.
Like, dude, like, what do you get for that? Like a couple.
Is it worth it going to the thing? To like,
No,
by the
dude,
time
if-
you leave work, you go to the scrap copper place, you junk it in there, and you get your whatever you
In
get.
my mind, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
No freaking way. To some of my guys, yes.
Interesting.
I tell them if they want to keep it and go take it there on their own time and get paid for it, go for it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Don't do it on my time.
Yeah. Don't do it on your time, and don't leave it here because you're gonna take a big haul at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So you'll just throw it in the dumpster.
No. Put it at your house.
Yeah. Store the scrap at your house.
Yeah. Okay, we got way sidetracked.
Well, let me ask you this, because we're sort of in like a we've never really talked about inventory, and it comes up occasionally when I talk to guys. Is inventory systems part of a financial system?
It can be, but if you're small, so inventory is really like geographical,
Sure.
right? So you have, and there's three instances in which I've seen it played out. There's like my business in Alaska, the parts store was like I don't know, 6 minutes from our shop.
Sure.
If that.
Sure. Yeah.
And we didn't stock anything in our shop.
Yeah. You just go down to the parts store.
Go down to the parts store. They're our shop. Just call them up.
They have an inventory system management.
They have it all figured out. That way we don't have to do it. So now we don't have this system. It's done. It's taken care of. Does it take a little bit longer going to the supply house? Maybe. But we incentivize our guys to be efficient with our commission structure, which we'll talk about as well. And that way they're trying to be as fast as possible, so they call their parts in.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Call them in, then they can go pick them up.
Yeah.
Also, we pretty much use one supplier for the majority of our stuff, and they're not the cheapest. They're just faster and better, and we're one of their biggest customers. And so when my guys call, they get us our stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't complain about pricing.
You don't try
I'm
to
not a
haggle
dick
on
to
it.
them.
Yeah, I gotcha. There's a good working relationship.
Whenever I'm in town, I go bring everybody at that supply house gift cards to a coffee shop in town, and just kind of build that relationship, right? So that helps. So now we don't need an inventory system at our shop.
Yeah.
So that saves a ton of headache.
Ton of space.
Ton of
headache.
Ton of headache.
Yeah, because inventory systems, like I was talking to a very large company, I don't know, like a couple months ago, and they were doing like over 20 or 30 million. And this guy was just sort of lamenting to me that they just implemented this really complex inventory system.
Yeah, screw that.
And their margins weren't super great. And again, I don't know what margins are supposed to look like at that level of scale, but I was just like, hey man, you got to ask yourself, like,
They should be good.
they should be good.
If they're not, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and so he was like struggling with this inventory system because they can become so bloated and become their own departments.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, it doesn't actually do the thing it's supposed to do.
Nope.
And so, like in any level of business, you have to be weary of like pet projects.
Yep.
Like if you love inventory because you're one of those people.
Yep.
Like if that doesn't make you more money at the bottom of the day, like be aware that your love of inventory and systems and like because we've known a couple of mutual people who were really proud of their inventory systems. Oh yeah. I got connexes spread across the states where everybody goes to their connex and you're just like sounds like a freaking headache. Yeah. But those little passion projects within your business, your passion side quest, we could say, are going to bleed you money.
So and the funny part is they probably put that inventory system in place to control material costs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
And it really just ends up costing them way more. Like maybe their material cost percentage on their COGS go down, but their overhead goes up more than what they got their material COG down.
And even if it's like even if you like just equalize the two, like, or maybe even if you're just
now you're doing a bunch of work for no reason.
Yeah, even if you come out a little bit ahead, like arguably there's an easier way to come out more ahead than like create this burdensome system. I don't know about you, but most of the times tedious systems people don't like. Like if you got to like scan a part out at the shop so that inventory czar can get the new part, put it in there, and all that kind of stuff. Like,
seeing at some point in time, that's gonna make sense.
Sure.
At some sort of scale, you're gonna have to have that. Where that's at, I don't know.
Sure. Not in the 0 to 5 million space.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Not at all. I can see like when you like how I would want to roll this next. So like there's people like me, if you're close to a supply house, you're in a small area, then don't even stock. But then there's people who are in a big city and they're serving maybe a area that's outside of the city and they don't have, a shop close by.
Sure.
I don't want to say shop, not a shop, but a supply house, right? Maybe they're 45 minutes or an hour away from the supply house. Maybe it's an hour and a half away from where they do most of their work. That would be no good. So you would want to have your location and you would want to have your service area just a certain radius around your physical location. And you would want to have the ability to get materials and restock your van from your shop. The way that I would do that is as I was growing that company, I would make sure and pay my vendor bills on time, all the time. And then when I got to the point where I had a shop space that was big enough to start housing my own inventory, I would go to the supplier and I would say, hey, stock my shelves at my shop with these items. My guys will use them, and you can come in and restock. And when you restock, you can bill me for the parts that we used. That way, you're not paying to have to upfront stock your entire shop.
Yeah, sure.
And I would make sure and I would control the SKUs that they put in my shop. So I would control the parts that they put in my shop.
Right.
It would help you get rid of the guy who's got like 10 million of everything on his van.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Like if you've got, like for the HVAC guys especially, we've got a universal, main board, or we've got the specific board for 5 different units. Well, let's just do the universal one. Whether you like it or not, I don't care.
Right.
It's more efficient. We're going to make more money. That's how I would do it in that instance. If you're trying to serve an area that's 100 miles wide, then you need shop locations.
Right.
Like your service area probably shouldn't get bigger than like a 15-mile radius. That's it. So a 30-mile diameter, and your shop should be like right in the middle of that somewhere, as close as possible, right? So limiting your service area would help. Paying your vendor bills on time, and then having them stock your shop. That's an option.
Yeah. For
For people who are in more well-populated areas. Like that would be a good thing to do here in Pensacola. The third person you kind of run into is the guy who's super rural and they don't have a supply house.
Right.
So they have to order their own parts, and there's no supply house that's going to come stock their stuff either.
Right. Sure.
I would keep that super simple as well. I would stock my own shelves. Whether you do it from, like where you do it from doesn't really matter. You could literally stock your shop from supplyhouse.com. And I would keep it super simple, where if you use something, you write it down on a notepad.
Sure.
And then I'll grab the notepad, I'll do a once over, and I'll go restock the shelves.
Right.
Call it a day.
Right.
I would not try and under 5 million, I would not try and have some crazy inventory system.
Yeah, sure.
I probably wouldn't even do it at 20 million. I'd probably be like, you know what? And you're going to have guys that like throw a ton of crap on their van and they don't use it and they bring it back.
Right.
And you just have to yell at them. Like, quit doing that, you dummy.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't grab 100 extra 90s when you only needed 2 to begin with.
All of them broke last time, so
Yeah. And just know there's going to be nuances to it, and it's part of the deal. And make it just as simple as possible. Not super complex.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys, like in Service Titan, you can build out your inventory to where when guys use a task, it pulls, it says, hey, we use these items, and then they can adjust it. Oh, actually, I used 3 more 90s and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. What a waste of time. I would not do that at all. I would just, as they pull it out of the shop, they write it down or we go count it once a week. But I would probably have them just notepad, I took 10 90s.
Yeah.
And then order 10 more.
Yeah.
Or if they took 10 90s, go look at the 90 bin and be like, there's plenty.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't create, you already have enough work. Don't create for yourself extra work.
Oh, yeah.
Especially extra work that doesn't actually contribute to like gross margin increase.
Yeah, your focus needs to be 100% on driving revenue and customer satisfaction at the same time. So we have these 5 systems in our business, and all 5 of them need to do those 2 things.
Yeah, pointing
together.
towards those two things.
Together.
Yeah.
Don't drive revenue at the sake of customer satisfaction, and don't drive customer satisfaction at the sake of revenue.
Yeah, it won't work.
Have to do them together. Okay. So when you let's do this. When you first start out in your business, we're 30 minutes in, we got nowhere. You're welcome, guys.
You're welcome.
You're
That's
welcome.
how we roll.
You're
so
welcome.
For the if you're here, you've been here for a while. You already.
We're
know
gonna
how it
start
goes.
doing 5-hour podcasts.
Oh gosh. Jeez. All right.
I'm just kidding. We're
I'll
not
be
gonna
in
do
and
that. We're not going to do that. A lot of people, they only do 30-minute podcasts. I don't know how do they get any information out there?
Yeah, I know, right? They
You
just
get like
they don't
one.
have. They probably don't have as much fun. Is probably what's happening.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. There's two, like when we're talking about pricing system or financial system, we're talking about how you price your services, right? So you're talking hourly rate plus material markup.
Sure.
And then we're talking, are you flat rate? Are you hourly? Obviously, you should be flat rate.
Sure.
But how you come up with those flat rate prices. We're talking about your price book. How do you organize your price book? That's part of your financial system. In ours, we went to like three different pricing
Bins, buckets,
bins,
categories,
sections, categories. Categories is probably a better way to think about it. And then we're talking commission structure, right? That's all part of your financial system. How do you pay your guys?
Yeah.
How do you pay your CSRs? How does all that work? That's all part of your financial system.
Sure.
And we need to talk about like memberships are part of your financial system. And even a certain portion of your follow-up has to do with part of your financial system.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So some of these systems kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about all that crap in the next hour.
Oh, easy, dude.
Oh, easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
So we'll start with when I first started out. We'll kind of run through like in order of the changes that I made, so that if for the people that are listening, they can kind of see the evolution of the needs of the business and why we made the changes that we made. I think that'll be helpful. So when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, obviously. And when I first learned how to price, I learned a really simple method, like a very, very common method.
Right.
Tons of businesses still use it. And this method got me to 5 million in revenue.
Right.
At roughly 20-25% net margins. Okay. Net margins is bottom line P&L.
Yeah, there we go.
Like down at the bottom. How much cash you get to keep.
Yep. The important number.
And basically all you're going to do is, and this is, by the way, I don't have my playbook here, man.
Holy crap, dude.
What the?
This
is terrible.
I can give you a stack of papers that look like a playbook. You want that?
Nah, it's cool.
Man.
It's the calculator that you get in our free playbook. If you want to get it, it's free. There's a calculator in it. It's also free. Go to www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook.
It's actually a good document.
It's a great document.
Like, it's actually useful. I've been telling these a lot on my little 15-minute phone calls that I have with guys who are interested in our program, is that if they're not ready for the program, I'm like, dude, use the free stuff. It is not just so that you have this conversation to call me and then I ask you for your money. Like, it's actually helpful. So, like, please use it. Like, if you actually print it out and you go through it and you actually really take what it says in there and then you check it off and you implement in your business and you reflect upon the change and you actually use it like a true tool, it will make you more money.
Yeah, the free stuff is only going to get better.
Yeah, true.
Okay. So www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook, or if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description. Yeah. Just go click it. And it's free, literally. So you have no excuse. And the information in there, if you're not doing the stuff in there, will make your business better, which will make you money. Yeah. So you got a free thing that's going to make you money. And if you don't grab it, I hate to tell you, but you're retarded. Okay. Now we got that covered.
Yeah, got that out of our chest.
The calculator that's in there, what it does is there's like a main calculator page and then there's an expenses page. And on the expenses, there's like a tab at the bottom. It's a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. What you do is you go put in all of your expenses, okay? So that and what that does is it adds up what it costs you to run your business, and it divides it by how much time you actually have available to sell to the customer.
Sure.
This can be life-changing for people who haven't thought about how to price their crap.
Yeah, that number right there, that how much time you have to actually sell to your customer, there's
two things. Number one, how much it actually costs you to run your business. Most people are freaking flabbergasted.
Sure, of course.
I've done reels on this before. My $5 million business, our overhead, if you take the overhead plus the labor, it's over $3 million to run the company.
Yeah, it's a lot of money going in.
It's about $3 million just to keep doors open and guys working.
Yeah,
$3 million. And then you have materials that you buy, and then you have profit that you make.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that you're spending. That's why you got to make a profit. That's why you got to know that number, right?
Yeah. Because otherwise you'll run out of money very quickly.
Yeah, very fast. And like, if I have a $5 million business that made me $1.2 million, that means I had to spend $3.8 million to make that $1.2 million.
Yeah.
That's the part that people forget about.
Yeah.
And if you're going to spend $3.8 million, in my mind, the minimum I want to make is $1 million back from that. I'm not going to spend $3.8 million, have all that risk.
Yeah, for like $500K or something.
Yeah, to make a few $100,000.
Yeah, sure.
You'd be better off going and getting a job that pays you a few $100,000 a year.
Because you have a huge risk.
Huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
It's a ton of moving parts. There's a ton of liability. You better be making some money to make it worth it. Okay. So what's crazy is when you add up, so for people who are first starting out, like in the calculator, I recommend they price their business like they have 3 trucks. So what I want them to do is go through and figure out how much it's going to cost them to the best of their ability when they have 3 service vehicles. They're in the office. They're not in the field anymore. They have a CSR that answers the phones and dispatches the calls. And they have a healthy marketing budget. And they're like a real company at that point.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And the reason is that's one of the most expensive times because you, the owner, typically up until that point, you're out in the truck producing revenue. And so you have a lot of fluff because you're not paying yourself like you would pay a technician plus yourself. Right. So the second you pull out of the field, now you are a non-revenue generating employee. Okay. And you still have to get paid. So that means the 3 people out in the field, they now have to produce more revenue. You have to be more expensive in order to cover your salary.
Yeah, so when you're like a one truck chuck and you're like, dude, my net margins are crazy. I'm like at 60% or some wild number.
Yeah.
It's like that will eventually, you'll eat into that very quickly.
You'll eat into it real fast.
Especially the moment, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys resonating with this when they've tried to pull out of the truck and then suddenly they don't make any money and they're like, what's going on?
Yep.
I got to go back into the truck.
Yep. And we see that all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And it's literally just that, and these are people who aren't even spending on marketing.
Sure.
And they're just way too cheap. Like they can't afford marketing. They can't afford good tools. They can't afford to pay their guys well. And then they pull out of the truck and they're like losing money and they can't figure out why. You're just not charging enough.
Right.
It's that simple. Okay. So that calculator tells you exactly how much it costs you to run. A 3-man shop, no matter where you are in the United States, it costs you between $1 million and $1.2 million to run that. Which is surprising to most people.
Right.
Because that's a small business.
Right, yeah.
It's not a big business. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to really open your eyes to like how much time you actually bill out to the customer.
Yeah, sure.
And this is one of the improvements that you can work on. But in the beginning, I would start with 55% of your time is billed.
Yeah.
So if it's 3 guys out in the field all working 2,000 hours, they're going to bill out 1,100 hours each, 3,300 hours a year. So you take that $1 million business, you divide it by 3,300 hours, and that's how much it costs you. So I think that's like $280 or something like that.
Sure.
Or maybe it's $3 or $330, something like that. That's how much it costs you per billable hour.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Just your cost.
Just to run like break even, right?
Yep. So if you were to bill out those 3,300 hours at that cost, you're break even.
Right.
You make 0 profit.
Yep. You're just keeping the doors open,
if
keeping the
everything
lights
went
on.
perfect.
Yeah, no mistakes were made.
No mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then what you need to do is you need to take that cost, you need to mark it up. Is that the correct terminology? I don't want you to mark it up. I want you to have 20% margin on that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Markup and margin are different things. So a 300% markup is a 75% margin. 100% markup is a 50% margin.
Right.
Okay. So I want you to create a 30% margin on that cost number. That allows you to give 10% discounts to your members and still maintain 20% net profit on your P&L.
Right.
Very important. That number is going to end up being for a typical 3-man shop is like anywhere from $400 to $600 an hour.
Yep.
Depending on where you are in the United States.
Depending, and we don't talk, that doesn't mean because in these areas, other companies are expensive, so you need to compete with them. It means in certain areas, it's more expensive to have a business.
Yeah. Some areas you can get a shop for $1,200. Some areas it costs you $6,000 a month.
Yeah. Some areas your taxes are going to be way higher and there's going to be weird stuff going on. So it's going to be even more expensive.
Some areas to get a plumber, you got to pay him $60 an hour.
Yeah.
Some areas you can pay him $25. That's the difference.
Yeah. The difference, again, comes back to the math that it's required to run your business, not just arbitrary numbers.
Amen.
Nobody makes money off of arbitrary.
Nobody. So in the beginning, that's a really good pricing equation to run.
Just because it's simple?
It's simple. And it really, for somebody who isn't a business owner who comes into that, it really sinks into their head of like, oh, I have to pay all of these expenses.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense.
Yeah, and it kind of breaks them into the whole idea that like, hey man, it's okay to be quote unquote expensive.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you won't be able to make money with this business.
Right.
And if you can't come to the terms with that, then quit and go get a job.
Yep.
Because otherwise you're just going to have a very long, hard, not very fun time with this.
Yep. So it's simple and it gets their head wrapped around it easier, I think.
Yeah.
Because it can be really hard coming in from being a plumber to coming in to owning your own business to having to charge $400 an hour. Sure. It can be a total mind game.
Especially, and there can be so much baggage that comes in with that whole idea about, oh, I'm not suddenly really expensive. Like we've talked about this a lot, but it's important to get over that mental hump because once you're on the other side, then you are that much closer to becoming a business person.
Correct.
And you're suddenly looking at things from numbers and not just like, well, how are they going to feel about this? How do I feel about
your feelings don't mean jack diddly squat.
No, they don't.
They mean absolutely nothing. So just put those happy-go-lucky
hey, easy.
Feelings
Some people
aside.
like their feelings. Okay?
Like business is not an emotional thing.
It's very emotional.
It is a numbers thing, and that's pretty much it.
Sure.
You're like your goal is to produce money. Money is measured in numbers. Business is a numbers thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's not an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Take your emotions outside of it, please.
Yeah, sure.
You'll be much better off. Hard to do. Like
very hard to do.
Like I feel for everybody that, because for me it was tough.
I mean, you had to go to the point where you were losing money, looking at the reality that your company would not be around if you didn't finally increase price to where you knew you needed to have.
Right.
And so you're like, well, we either have a business and I can pay guys well and have cool stuff, or I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Hands down. Okay. So the second, so that gets you making money on your labor.
Yeah.
But you can't just make money on your labor. You have to make money on materials as well.
Sure.
So with materials, when you're running this kind of equation, what ends up happening with materials is you have a material efficiency. Okay.
Like how good you are at using the amount of materials that you're supposed to use.
Yes.
Okay.
So service work, material efficiency is pretty poor. And there's measures you can put in place later on down the road that will help you with that. But starting out, you need to mark up your materials. If it's just you and yourself in the van, marking up materials 100% you can get away with.
Okay.
Some of the people listening to this are going to be like, that's freaking insane. 100% markup.
And remember, you're talking about doubling the price?
Doubling the price, which would be a 50% margin.
Okay.
Right? Meaning if everything went well, you're going to make 50% on those material costs.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
It's not everything's going to go well. You're going to make 20 or 30% on those materials.
Yeah, sure.
And you're going to be covering all of your overhead with your labor rate, okay?
Okay, gotcha.
When you start getting like 3 or 4 guys, you're going to have to go to 120% markup on materials because they're going to be less efficient than you.
Sure, of course.
So if I were myself starting out, I would just start marking them up 120%.
Yeah.
And take the extra money and run.
Sure.
And use it to grow my business.
Yeah.
I guess don't run, but use it.
So run in a direction of business growth.
There you go. You're so smart.
Don't worry, I got your back on that one.
That's kind of method 1 of pricing. Okay.
Okay, pretty basic, pretty easy to just kind of implement like tomorrow.
Basic, easy, you can implement. And then when you go to jobs, right? You don't need a freaking price book in the beginning.
It's just you.
It's just you. Even with 3 guys, you don't have to have a price book. The price book is not this magical thing that's gonna explode your business and make everything work. And like, I don't know why guys get so hung up on a stupid price book. Maybe, like it's the thing.
Yeah,
I just need a price book, and then I'll be successful.
Yeah,
and it's like, no. Honestly, if they get a price book, they're gonna screw it up, and it's and it's not gonna do them with the good they think it's gonna do them in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of like a price book is something that you almost need to earn the understanding to recognize the value before you use it.
Kind of,
because it's kind of like if
my thing is like, yes, the price book is a useful tool,
sure, of course,
but you can make tons of money without it. So let's figure out how to do that first.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is that by doing that, you will then finally understand how the price book is actually to be used so that it actually becomes useful. Because the price book, in my mind, is just an efficiency tool.
Yes.
It's not an actual pricing your jobs tool.
No.
It just makes you more efficient at scale.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with you and the truck.
Yes.
So it's kind of like if I were to go buy a really fancy plumbing tool as Joel myself, I'd be like, Jared, I just bought this $8,000 cool thing. You're going to be like, cool. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen anybody do. Like, what are you going to do with that? I'd be like, well, I'm going to use it.
Yes.
Like, that tool will make money when I know how to use it, but there's probably things I need to understand before I actually would get that tool to make it really work. So,
amen, brother.
Price book is not like a shortcut. I think we naturally want shortcuts.
They think it's going to be a shortcut.
Yeah, especially when they're like, "Hey, Jared, just give me your price book."
People want shortcuts.
Yeah,
I got news for the guys who want shortcuts. It's not easy. It's not simple. It's difficult.
I'm trying to.
If I can do it, you can do it. If you listen to this podcast, you'll have a much easier time, but don't expect it to just be like, you're going to like put these things in place and just willy-nilly, you're going to make tons of money. That's not how it works.
I can't really imagine any like mythical story or scenario where it advocated for the shortcut. Nobody's ever like, hey man, climb straight up the mountain because it's going to be faster.
Here's the thing. I want to use that analogy, but I don't know how, so... Sorry. Here's the thing. You can listen to this podcast and we can give you shortcuts. Like we just gave you a shortcut. Now you know how to, you actually can just go get our hourly rate calculator and bam, shortcut. Yeah, sure. Now you know how much to charge.
Yeah, I guess you didn't have to like originate idea yourself. But, yeah, I guess it's kind of a shortcut.
Right. But you as a person still have to develop the skill of getting a spreadsheet, learning how to use the spreadsheet. Whoa. And then learning how to implement that pricing and how to sell that pricing and how to talk to the customer. And you still have skills that you have to build. And I can give you all the information in the world.
Yeah, sure.
You're still going to have to build the skills. Yeah. And you don't build the skill by listening to a podcast. You build the skill by doing the crap.
Yeah, it's kind of like even if you were to like build somebody a price book by looking at their business and understanding all their services and you built it out for them and then you sold it to them, they would go
not make any money.
Yeah, because they wouldn't know where it came from.
Right.
They would argue with it. They'd probably disagree with certain things. They wouldn't know how to present the options. Like,
yep. So here's the shortcut. Listen to this podcast and then go do the stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
And the doing of the work will create the skill, and that is the shortcut. It's the shortcut is hard work. That's really what it is.
Yeah. The shortcut is recognizing that the quicker you just apply yourself consistently to doing hard things, you'll start that process of achieving the ultimate outcome that consistency brings.
Yep.
Like I'll get stronger the sooner I consistently start working out.
Yeah. And then guess what? Working out's going to be extremely uncomfortable.
It's going to suck. It's going to be lame. I'm not going to want to do it. It's going to be hard. But the longer I delay the action of working out, the longer I'll be fat.
Is that why I'm fat?
Yes.
Dang it.
I'm just lazy. Just no good for nothing.
Dang it, man.
Yeah, busted.
Crap. Okay.
Or the cheesecake that you eat. Could be both.
Oh, I haven't eaten cheesecake in a long time. That sounds good, dude.
Sounds real good.
I ate some plums today. I haven't had plums and like... I can't even remember the last time I had a plum. I love plums. They're delicious. It's like I like forgot how good they were.
Yeah.
And then I pulled one out. They were in the fridge, and I was like, "Oh, freaking plum!" And I put it in my mouth, and I was like, "Good night."
Yeah.
These are good.
I like plums.
Yeah, good. Here's the problem with fruit. I like my fruit ripe, like almost rotten ripe,
Okay.
like super soft and juicy. And the rest of my family doesn't. So it gets eaten before I ever touch it.
Yeah, sure. So you never get the
But
fruit.
I found one good plum today.
Thank
it was
goodness.
good.
Nice.
So that's a great way to price your services. Okay.
Do you think?
Where are we going from
Do
there?
you
No,
think, do you think because you're a plumber, is that why you like plums?
dude, you're so... that was the joke was not funny.
That was so funny.
The dumb way you said it was.
I know, because I was so excited that I found the joke.
Yes, the fact that you were so excited about that dumb of a joke is what was funny.
Oh, man. You know, I'm a pretty witty guy, Jared. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Yeah, super witty.
Everybody
Plum.
knows that I'm the funny guy.
The plumber likes plums.
Hey, can you please get back on? Can you please get back on topic here, Jared? We're trying to teach people things here, not talk about stupid stuff.
So we've got that down. The other pricing method, should we go into that now?
Well, is there anything else about the? I mean,
No, it's that simple.
you need a bookkeeper. We haven't even touched
Well,
on that.
let's talk
that
about
kind
how
of
you
stuff.
build your pricing out, like in the field with that pricing model.
Okay, sure.
And it's super simple. You have an hourly rate, you have a material markup. You go to a job, you look at it, and you say, "This is going to take me this long. Materials are going to cost me this much." You do the math, you add it up, and you present it to the customer.
Yeah.
One final flat rate price,
Yeah, for each of your options, because you're going to present options.
as much as possible. Do not ever split up labor and materials, ever. Even if they ask you, say, "I don't do that. I give you a final price."
Yeah.
I price you're buying an outcome, not labor and materials.
Yes, you are buying an outcome.
Yes.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yes, I'm providing you with this service here, and this is the price for this service.
This is the outcome.
Yes, this is the outcome you're getting. If the outcome is worth this price, then I can do this work for you. If it's not, then I will go do it for someone else.
There you go.
Okay, cool. And don't feel bad about that.
Yeah. Oh,
Feel good about it.
yeah. I was talking to a guy about that today because he's undercharging, and I was just telling me like, yeah, charge more. And then I think the single most useful idea in sales is all sales is a transference of certainty from one person to another.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
So the more certain and confident you are about what you're offering, the more likelihood that that person is actually going to say yes to whatever it is.
Yes. If you can go into a home very confidently, see the issue, talk to the customer, present them with a price, and just own that price, very confident in it, they'll say yes every time.
Yeah, because it's almost like
Guaranteed.
your error about you is people don't tell me no.
Yeah.
Because why would they?
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is the thing. This is what you want. That's why you called me here.
Yep.
This is so confusing to me. Why would you tell me no right now?
Yep. Okay. That's how you use that. That's how you do it in the field. The next level of kind of pricing model is to switch from an hourly rate and a material markup into trying to get a certain margin on your profit and loss statement. So like we talked about earlier, when we're looking at our profit and loss statement, we have total revenue at the top, and we have our COGS, and then we have our gross profit. Gross profit is just total revenue minus your COGS.
Yep.
And then underneath that, you start subtracting out all your overhead expenses.
Right, sure.
Guys. So everything like shop rent, vehicle payments. Actually, vehicle payments aren't in there. They're on your balance sheet. Gas expenses, owner pay, your CSR pay, your phone bills, all that good stuff. Marketing, all that stuff gets subtracted out. And what you're left with at the bottom is your net profit margin. That's like actual how much cash you get to keep at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Minus whatever payments or debts are on your balance sheet, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So if we have a history of running our company, we start to see patterns.
How long a history do you need?
You don't really need that much history, right?
Okay.
You could start margin pricing right off the get-go. The only thing is that for me, it's more complicated.
Sure.
Takes a little bit more to wrap your brain around.
Sure.
You have to understand your P&L, which is one of the things I like about it. It forces you to understand your P&L.
Which, yeah, that's very
but
important.
It doesn't take your expenses and really sink it into your head of how much it costs you to run this business and why you need to charge the customer what you're charging them.
Sure.
That's why I think I'm still I've been toying back and forth. Like which pricing method should somebody use when they first start out?
Yeah, do you just throw them in the margin right away because of the benefits that we'll talk about, or
right? And I think starting out on the other one is a better way to go.
Yeah, it seems to be primarily just to like break them of crappy mindsets.
Yes.
And I think the guys who have better mindsets will quickly move to margin because they'll be like, oh, I don't have a problem with any of this.
Right.
Like, let me get that thing.
Yep. Okay. So if you run your business for a while, or you just look at other successful people's businesses, they'll have very similar margins.
Yeah.
Okay. Or costs as a percentage of how much revenue they bring in.
Yeah, sure.
So if they're able to bring, 20 to 30% net profits on the bottom line, and you start working your way up, you're going to see very similar numbers. And I would measure these over long periods of time. And you're going to start seeing that, like, okay, they bring in 100% of their revenue. Their materials usually cost them about 20%. Their labor is usually 25% or less. Their gross profit is usually 50, 55, or 60. Their overhead is typically 30%, which leaves them 20, 25% on the bottom. And so knowing that, we can, number one, if we've been in business, we can go look at our overhead costs, and then we can determine how much gross margin we need left, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So if we've brought in $1 million last year and our overhead was $300,000, we have 30% overhead.
Right.
So if we want 20% net profit, we would have to see 50% gross margin.
Right.
20 plus 30 is 50. You just work yourself up that P&L, right? And so then we start taking our COGS and just marking them up enough to hit the desired gross margin.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Makes sense?
Marking up the things that you're reselling to the customer.
Yes.
So you're marking up your skilled labor and your materials.
Yes. And we buy and resell skilled labor and materials. Yep. So we mark it up enough to hit the margin we want on our P&L.
Yeah. Both of those things, skilled labor and the materials.
Correct. Okay.
What's
cool about this is then you can run, like before on the original calculator, if you grow with that calculator, what you're going to notice is you're going to have months where you bring in a ton of revenue, but the net profit doesn't scale at the same pace as your revenue does.
Interesting. So like you hold inconsistent net margins over time?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Your net margins will be inconsistent.
But like in the long term, you'll hit like 20, 25%, but some months
Correct.
you'll have great margins. Other months you'll have less great margins.
Yeah. Some months you'll have huge revenues, but low margins.
Yeah.
And you'll look and your material costs will be high. Your labor is usually pretty decent, but you'll notice it, right? It'll be inconsistent on that bottom line. The reason is that if you don't sell a ton of labor, you may not sell enough labor to cover your overhead expenses.
Right.
But sell enough materials to jack up top line revenue. And if you're not,
okay.
And if you have material inefficiencies, right? And you're only marking up your materials 120%, 120% is only 54.4% gross margin. And so add an inefficiency in there, and you might be making 30% on your materials.
Sure.
Well, if you didn't cover your overhead expenses with your labor because you didn't sell enough labor, then it's going to cut into that even more, and you're going to have a smaller net margin on the bottom of your P&L.
Yeah, gotcha.
This, by the way, that's the kind of stuff you have to understand about your business.
And the more you understand it, like freely understand it without having to keep checking the work to
the richer
check your
you're
understanding.
going to get.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, because you're going to start to know what to do in your business to affect gross margin on your P&L, which is going to give you more money in your bank account. It's the ultimate skill you can learn. Okay.
Right.
So that's what gross margin solves. It's like, I don't care if we sell all materials or all labor.
Sure, yeah. You still hit
I'm
your
hitting
margin.
my margin no matter what.
Yeah.
So now
cool.
your margins are way more consistent.
Right. Okay.
And you can measure your performance off of revenue.
Oh,
right?
Because before, what would you measure your performance on?
You would
We didn't even talk about that. Right?
You would have to measure your performance on hours sold.
Yeah. Okay.
So you would say, okay, each guy needs to sell 1,100 hours. That divided by how many working days there are, that's how many I need to sell each guy each day.
Yeah, which when you're starting out can be sort of helpful because then you can look at,
Yep.
oh, if I add expenses like a truck and a guy, I only need to sell X amount of more hours per week.
Correct.
Do I think I can get enough work to do that? I
Correct.
probably can. Like you can have those easy calculations to run.
Yes. Yep. Valuable tool. On margin, you kind of have that, except it's like, okay, if I bring in another guy, how much revenue can he bring in? What does that do to my net? What does that do to my gross? And what does that do to my net?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. And you can add in the overhead expenses to say, okay, if he only brings in half the revenue, what does that do to my margins on my stuff? Okay.
But it's really cool because then even your pricing system is focused on revenue collection.
Correct.
Whereas before your KPI is hours sold,
Yep.
which is revenue adjacent, but
Yep.
it's not
It's not.
quite the same.
Nope.
And so when you start to attach to commission structures, it's a little more interesting.
And that's the other thing is like when you start having employees and you want to implement commission structures, you need to make sure your margins are consistent so that when you implement your commission structure, you're not accidentally paying your guys too much.
Yeah.
Because on the free hourly rate calculator that we give away, you could potentially sell too many materials and your margins aren't there.
Right.
It's
Yeah, sure.
slightly unlikely, but it does happen.
Sure, of course.
Right. So at some point in time, I would want to switch to just margin pricing.
Yeah, gotcha.
And basically the starting point that I would go for is I would take, what you would do is you would take your labor cost, okay? Because we sell labor and materials. So you need to figure out you really need to figure out, I don't know how deep I want to go on this. We could go real deep. I'll tell you what. There's an episode they could watch about margin pricing.
Yeah.
It's a few episodes back. Maybe like
It's quite a few episodes
10?
back, at least.
6
Something like that.
6 to 10 episodes back.
Yeah.
There's an episode we go over this in very, very, very great detail.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're not going to get to everything else on this
No,
podcast
especially because I got
today.
like 3 stories I want to tell.
Hopefully, they're better than your dumb joke.
You should get a T-shirt like I like plums and I'm a plumber. Do you get it? Be pretty funny. People would buy it.
Probably. Put in the comments if you'd buy it.
Yeah.
If you'd buy it, say, I love Joel. Type I love Joel in the comments.
Oh man, it's gonna be such a good
If there's
affirming thing.
If there's one I love Joel in the comments, then we'll throw a party.
Yeah, just for us though, right?
Yeah,
like
oh,
a
yeah.
cheesecake party.
Heck yeah,
We'll go
dude.
shoot and then eat cheesecake.
Next podcast, we'll just eat cheesecake.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a few podcasts from now because
Yeah, we gotta wait till this comes out.
we got to
All
wait
right.
till this comes out.
Man, I'm excited to eat cheesecake.
Okay. I'm going to put a dumb joke on the cheesecake.
You could put a plum joke on there.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't even start thinking about it. The basics with margin pricing and the way that we did it is on service work, we shoot for a 75% margin because there's inefficiencies in service work.
So you
okay?
just jack up the margin because it's more inefficient.
Right,
And you know
so-
that through history.
Yep. So on my P&L, and this would be a great place to start, I want to hit 55% gross margin.
Yeah.
Okay. So top line revenue minus my COGS, I want 55% of the money left over
Right.
to cover overhead and have net profit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because typically my overhead expenses for my business were around 24%. So that would leave me 30% net at the bottom if I hit 55% gross.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was shooting for. Like best case scenario, I want 30% left. And so I would take my labor rate and I would figure out my efficiency and my membership discount and all that stuff. And it ends up being a 75% margin on my labor cost. Okay. And I use my like most expensive guy. That's what I would figure it on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for my materials, if you think about material efficiency, it's pretty much the same thing. So we started, when we implemented this, we implemented with 75% margin on labor, 75% margin on materials for service work. We classified service work as anything 4 hours and under.
Okay, gotcha.
Is how we did it.
Okay.
And it worked out really freaking well. Anything that was 5 hours or more, we start gaining efficiency on.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So we actually lowered the desired margin on anything 5 hours or more to a 60% margin and a 60% margin on materials as well.
Gotcha.
And if you just split into those two categories and base your pricing and this is something that like at this point, if you want to split and say, okay, this is like service and this we're going to consider install.
Yeah.
Install we're more efficient on. So we're going to lower the prices to increase conversion rates to sell more of our time.
Right. Yeah.
Pass those savings on to the customer.
Because selling your time is a efficiency number that you need to care about, pay attention to.
Yeah, you should really be tracking. There's 2 efficiency numbers you should track. And because they directly relate, like the main thing you want to look at is your P&L.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And you're going to be looking at your material percentages and your labor percentages. And the goal is to move those down so that you can increase gross margin.
Right.
Well, in order to do that, we need to track our labor efficiency and our material efficiency.
Okay.
Those are the next 2 things I would be tracking. Within material efficiency, if you just go pull a report, once you're on a CRM where you can actually do this, right? And you have a price book that has your tasks with your material cost in it, you can go pull a report and say, okay, last month, what did we bill out for materials?
Yeah, sure, of course.
And then go to QuickBooks, pull your P&L for that month, and see what you actually spent on materials.
Sure, because you want those numbers to match?
They should match exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
But they never will.
Sure, of course.
From my experience, we are going to bill out less than what we spend. And if you track that number...
Yeah, because you're not perfect. You're not going to perfectly execute on each task and never have waste.
Nope, never.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different for every person, for every business.
Right, yeah.
And that's why I think you should track it. Because if you have, in your price book, you inflated all your material costs, you're going to be closer to perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
So I would track that over a long period of time and then adjust my material markup based on my material efficiency.
Yeah.
That way
the
I'm
goal,
not...
you're shooting for 100% efficiency.
Right. And because you don't want to price too high and drive down conversion rates.
Right, yeah.
Essentially, if you had a really good material efficiency, which we'll get into how to increase your material efficiency, but if you had a good material efficiency and you could lower your markup on materials because of it and offer the product at a cheaper rate to your customers, more people are going to buy stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up making more money because with less marketing. Because out of the customers that you get, you're going to be selling to more of them.
Of course.
Okay. Which means you're going to sell way more of your time, which is the ultimate goal.
Yes. Is to sell all of your time.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you're talking about your labor efficiency, there's 2 things you need to track. Number 1, you need to be looking at your P&L, making sure you're under 25% labor. But then you also need to be going and looking at how many hours did we work and how many hours did we sell.
Yeah.
The difference is your labor efficiency.
Okay.
So if you worked 100 and sold 60, you're 60% efficient.
Okay. Yep.
And you should adjust your pricing based on that number. Okay. So you would take your cost of that person, you would adjust it for 60% efficient and say, this is my actual cost based on our historical efficiency. And then you would mark up to hit your margin on that cost.
Gotcha.
Okay. And the reason you're tracking so that you're not too expensive and you're not too cheap, you're just right.
Yeah, you're actually true to what is happening within your business.
Correct.
Like you're not shooting too high because you just don't know, and you're not shooting too low.
Shoot too high, you lose conversions,
right?
Which costs you money.
Right.
Shoot too low, you don't charge enough. You make more conversions, but you're not charging enough for those conversions.
Right.
Getting it just right, you have maximum conversions and maximum dollars in your bank account and maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
The other half of that you need to track is, okay, on the hours that we are selling, how efficient are we? So you need to track time spent on the job
Right.
versus time billed on the job over
Okay.
a long period of time.
Okay.
So if your guy goes to a job for 10 hours and it takes him 20,
I see.
he bids it for 10 and it takes him 20, he's 50% efficient.
Yep.
We want that number to be 100%.
Yeah,
We want that to be 100%, but never less than 80.
Yeah.
This is an indication of two things. Either you don't have enough time on tasks in your price book,
Sure. Yeah, you just did it wrong.
or your guys are going and underbidding stuff. We'll talk about how to prevent that here in a few minutes. Okay. So we're looking at our P&L, we're looking at our labor and material percentages, and then we're tracking our material efficiency, our overall labor efficiency, and then our job time efficiency.
Yep.
Those are the things you want to track. And we're going to adjust our pricing based off our overall efficiency and our material efficiency. Job time efficiency, you track and you show your guys, and your overall labor efficiency is going to get way better.
Yeah.
And your margins are going to go up on your P&L.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the pricing methods. This one, if you want to have different tiers of pricing, that's the best word.
Tiers.
Different tiers. Man, smarter than I look.
Sometimes you look pretty dumb. Just saying.
Thanks. Like when I'm at the bank.
Hi, what's up? Can we open a business?
Dude, by the way, for anybody that's listening, if you sell your business and you get a deposit of millions of dollars, it's hard to move that money around. I never would have guessed that moving money and getting things organized is so hard. It's taken me weeks and I still don't have it done.
Yeah, you still don't have all your money in the desired spaces where it needs to land.
Yeah. I made the mistake of I had an Alaska, a bank account at a bank in Alaska. And so I got deposited. It was $4.8 million in my bank account. Biggest bank account balance I've ever seen. It's not that big anymore, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you got to spend money. And so I made the mistake of leaving Alaska and coming down to Florida.
Oh, before the transaction was
well,
or before you could move stuff.
Well, I didn't even have a bank account down here in Florida.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
At a physical bank location because I bank online.
You're like, oh, it's a 21st century, you know?
Yeah. So I opened a bank account down here, and how'd that go? I opened another online bank account that was awesome, that had high yield savings accounts, credit cards. Yeah. It was awesome. But they didn't have a physical location here. And then I'm trying to get my money out of my Alaska account into that account.
Yeah.
And I can't transfer it over the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I get it? The only way I could get it was to write a check and go physically deposit it.
Yeah.
So I had to open a bank account at a bank here and then go in and deposit. I think I wrote a check for $4,380,000 and I go up to the cash register and I'm like, hey, I need to deposit this check. And she's like, hold on a minute.
Wait a second.
I'm like, okay.
I have never actually had this happen before.
Yeah. So then that money was on hold for 10 days.
Yeah.
So for 10 days, for a while, it was $31 and then it was $13. Yeah.
You were super broke.
I was super
Your wife
broke.
was stressing about it.
Yeah.
The money was just in the air being transferred.
So then I move $2.5 million over to a high yield savings account. And the high yield savings account called, they needed further verification. Well, I missed the time frame.
Of course.
So now, and it took like 2 days to get over there. Now I'm waiting for it to go back to my
your
normal bank account.
so that you can transfer it again.
So right now it's in thin air. I don't know where it is.
Oh gosh.
Isn't that weird?
So you just got millions of dollars that are just somewhere. That is weird.
Somewhere up there.
Yeah. Oh, weird.
So now, and then I got to go back in person and transfer it again.
Yeah, but then not miss the call
And
verification transfer window.
I already verified it. So
Okay, so
it'll
you're good
go
on that
next
part.
time.
Okay.
But bank tellers also have a limit on how much they're allowed to approve for a transfer. So I wanted to do $2.8 million into the high yield, but the lady who was helping me, her supervisor's limit was $2.5 million.
Oh,
She couldn't approve anything over that.
interesting.
So hopefully when I go back, she's there because she was the only one that had that high of a limit.
Interesting.
Yeah, they all had different limits.
Huh. Funny.
Yeah.
What a weird, the banking world is a weird world, man.
Yeah. I never would have thought that like moving money around would be such a pain in the nuts.
Well, when the numbers get really big, then people start to go,
turns into a pain in the
this seems
butt.
like there's a lot of money making potential for all players involved with this money, so we should do this a certain way.
Yep.
And also, are you a random criminal or what happened to you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. At least you weren't like, can I cash this?
What's
that
super
would be
funny is like when I lived down here and people would be like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I have a plumbing business in Alaska." And they'd be like, "Oh, so do you plumb? Are you plumbing down here?" And I'd be like, "Nope." And it was just like they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And then when I'm at the bank and they're like, "So what happened?" I'm like, "How did you get this much money?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I sold my plumbing business." They're like, "What?"
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. They're like,
Nobody
you can do that?
Yeah, people don't understand how much money you can make in a simple service business.
No,
It's
they
crazy.
don't. People think that there's all this money to be made in these really complex businesses.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's,
Bitcoin.
Anyway, this is a huge, Bitcoin or
Like if you
passive
walked in with
YouTube
millions
channels.
of dollars and they asked and I was like, "Oh, Bitcoin," they'd be like, "Oh."
They'd be like, dude, you must have hit
Makes
it
sense.
just right. Yeah, even though that's a complex system in and of itself.
Yeah. I bet plumbing has made more millionaires than Bitcoin.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? Okay.
Okay.
You said no more stories, Jared.
No
You
more
are telling
stories, dude. Come on.
It's Friday.
Get your crap together.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'll do better.
So margin pricing, got it covered.
Okay.
Those are the two ways for margin. Margin pricing, you need to be on a CRM if you want to have 2 tiers.
Yeah, because you have to be able to track lots of stuff
Yes.
and have good data.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
A woman.
We're going to put that aside. Next part of your financial system, I would say, would be a commission structure.
And you need these other 2 parts before you introduce commission, question mark?
I think you need to switch over to margin pricing before you implement commission.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't really know because I didn't do commission without margin pricing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I can see it might be okay. Like it would probably incentivize your guys to do better enough to where it would cancel out the negative side effects.
Yeah.
But if you do it on margin pricing, it's going to work even better,
Sure.
right? Even more certainty.
Sure.
Like the idea is we want to put cost controls in our business so that our labor rates and material costs don't get too high. And your commission structure is a cost control. It's a way to incentivize your guys to do better. They can earn more money, but also it's going to control your costs and you're going to earn more money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah.
So the way to do that is just to say, take how much you pay your guy per hour and figure out what his paycheck is going to be and how much the taxes are going to be and do this on a spreadsheet and then lay out like one whole column of like, okay, if he bills out $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in $1,000 increments all the way up to $100,000
Are these per week?
per week.
Yeah.
I would do it per week. I'd pay my guys per week. The reason being is I want them to relate how big their paycheck was to the actions they took that week.
Yeah.
And if you push their paycheck out 2 weeks,
They're going to forget.
they don't know.
Or they're going to conflate it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that I got all this money for the last job I just did. Instead of maybe
Yeah.
it was a job at the beginning of the month.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need that quick gratification.
Oh, heck yeah.
That's my thinking. And I'm going to stick with it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And what you're going to do is I would lay out a column that is called like percent of gross. Okay. So what you want to do is if they produce $10,000 and you pay them for 40 hours a week plus the taxes on that or whatever other fees you had to pay as an employer.
You have overtime in there too?
I put overtime in my margin calculator, not in my commission structure, but
Okay.
if you didn't put it in your, that's half a dozen one or another. You could put it in either one. It doesn't matter.
Okay. But it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't worry about overtime in that. But you could. You could say on a 50-hour week. That's probably what I'd do.
Yeah.
You want to figure out when I pay them their paycheck plus the commission, what percent of the revenue that they brought in is going on their paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll see is that if you introduce a baseline number
Mm-hmm.
and you give them a commission on anything over that number,
Mm-hmm.
I would do 10%. Then at a certain baseline, they drop below 20%.
20% on your P&L.
So think about that. So on our P&L, we want our labor costs to be below 25%.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. So 20% of that is direct labor costs. 5% of that is benefits.
Gotcha.
So health insurance, 401k, whatever.
Right.
So our direct labor costs, we want to keep below 20%. So when we figure out a commission structure, like if you just paid a base pay plus 4%, you're paying your guys way too much up until they produce enough money.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, like just right off the bat, like you didn't have
So
commission after a certain revenue. It's just like, hey, I pay you $35 or $40 base plus commission X% on everything you sell.
Right. So think about this. We got a guy, let's just say it costs us $3,000 to pay our guys every week. Okay. Each guy costs $3,000. And somebody produces $10,000 in revenue for that week.
Yeah.
He's at 30%.
Sure, just right off of
his labor
base pay.
costs you 30% of the revenue that he brought in.
Yeah.
And you really want to get that down to 20. Okay.
Yeah. So you're already overpaying him in this example.
Right. So what you would do is you would figure out at what point that becomes 20%. That'd be 12K, right? Yeah. So at 12K, if he produces 12K, all of a sudden his paycheck is only 20%. So that is our minimum desired revenue.
Yeah.
If he produces that and we pay him his normal paycheck, our labor costs are at 20%.
Yeah, cool.
So we need to set that as the standard and go to your guys and say, here's the minimum revenue. You have to hit at least this. And if you do anything produced above that, I'll give you 10% commission on.
Cool.
Okay. You need to add in that 10% commission and make sure that first 10% is still below 20.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is because you put a baseline in, the more they produce, the less you'll pay them in labor as a percent.
Of course. Yeah.
And so you gain efficiency in your labor that way. Okay. What this is also going to do is it's going to drive down your material costs inadvertently. Because what ends up happening, so a lot of the times, especially like in my business, we do this a ton because we deal with oil boilers and it's Alaska and everything's piped all messed up.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing is like how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so we'll run into lots of circumstances where we don't have a direct item in our price book to just hit a button and say, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
We end up using what's called a custom task where they go in and they select a time, they select a material cost, and it spits out a price for them. Without a commission structure, your technicians are incentivized to go to the customer's house and get them the best deal.
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
So they're going to underbid the labor, driving your labor rates up, and they're going to underbid the materials, driving your material costs up. When you switch to a commission structure, that changes. Now they're incentivized to make their paycheck bigger.
Right.
And so they go to the customer and they try to be as accurate as possible, or maybe even add a little fluff in their favor. And some people, if you haven't been in business a long time, you might be like, that's so immoral.
Sure.
It's not immoral. You are presenting a price to the customer to do some work and they are agreeing on it.
Sure.
And if the customer is happy with that, and your guys are getting 5-star reviews and producing a lot of revenue for your company,
sure,
that's a good business.
Yeah, sure.
That should be the goal.
Yeah.
It's not immoral.
Yeah.
Okay. You can sell immorally.
Sure.
You got to train your guys not to do that. And also just watch their customer satisfaction numbers.
Yeah.
If they are producing a lot of revenue, but their customer satisfaction is low, you got a problem.
Sure.
If they're producing lots of revenue and all their customers freaking love them, you got a great technician.
Yeah, because then no matter how you feel about what happened, the customer says it was cool.
Yeah.
They paid the money and they said that the thing was cool. It went down fine. They liked it.
If Nike can sell a hat for $1,000, say shoes.
Yeah.
Nike can sell shoes for thousands of dollars because the customer's willing to pay $1,000 for these shoes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sell them for $1,000.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If
It's
you're
like,
providing a service that is so freaking awesome that the customer's willing to pay a good dollar amount for it, what's the problem? It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's good business.
Who's to say that business owner A's morality is the thing that sets baseline morality for all business?
Yeah. Take your morality. Well, don't take your morality out of it. Be moral, but
Of course, yeah. Like be a good person, run a good business, all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. Pay
the
your
whole
technicians, take care
goal
of the
of
customer.
yes, the whole goal of your business is to sell your service at as high of a dollar amount as humanly possible, have maximum amount of conversions,
Right.
and make the maximum amount of net profit down at the bottom of your P&L.
Yeah, business is structured that those are the things that you do, that if you do them well, you say, I have a good business, because these things, all these numbers are agreeing with what you just said.
That's a business you're going to be able to sell for millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the purpose of business.
So technician commission structure, a baseline revenue. Once they hit that revenue, they get 10% commission on anything over that. And map it out on a spreadsheet to make sure your costs are 20% or lower.
Yeah.
Because you can 100% screw yourself if you do that wrong.
Yep.
So just map it out. And then show your guys what happens when they produce. And learn their goals. You want to buy a new truck? How much money do you need? Let me help you do that.
You only have to sell this much to make that much money.
Yep.
And look, the jump from that much to this much is only this much more.
Yep. So let's look at your metrics. Here's some areas you can improve.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If you want that, if you want that pickup truck in 1 month, you just have to improve this. Typically, I'll give you a hint. It's billable efficiency. It's their bid time versus time on job.
Yeah.
If you can get that from 60 to 80, they're going to make way more money for your company.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I would look at. If you have an underproducing technician, I bet their billable efficiency is low.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's probably not that they're too slow. It's usually that they don't bid accurately.
Yeah, sure.
Or they don't offer enough to the customer.
Right.
They're a one and done, cheapo, Band-Aid fix plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If you can get them to fix that one thing, they'll produce way more money.
Yeah.
Hands down. Okay. CSR commission. If you're on margin pricing, now you can predictably say, when I hit this revenue number, because it doesn't matter what I'm selling, materials or labor.
Right. Yep.
Now that I hit this revenue number, I know that I hit margin on it.
Right. Because you're in margin pricing, you hit margin on materials and labor, even if you had a really material heavy month. It's okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, because everything is priced around the margin.
So now I can say, once I hit this number, I covered my cost for the month. So you take your yearly costs, your yearly labor costs, your typical yearly material costs, and your yearly overhead costs, and you divide it by 12. Once you hit that number in the month, you have covered your costs for that month. If you can hit that month that number with a week left, you have your CSR go back and call all the unsold estimates and offer them a 15% discount to get the job booked. Now your conversion rates are going up, so you're being more efficient. Plus, on those jobs, you've covered all the costs. The only cost you have to pay on those converted jobs is materials.
Right.
Your labor's covered, your overhead's covered.
Yep, sure.
So, and if your materials are 20% typically, then you're making 80% margin on those jobs.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah, that's a lot of percents.
And that's 80% net because all your overhead's covered.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's a ton.
So offer them a 15% discount. Now we're at 70%. No.
65.
65. I was thinking 85 in my head for some reason.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're at 65% net, and then give your CSR 5% for converting that job. Now she has a way that she can make more money.
Yeah.
Or he.
Sure.
Still think that's weird though.
Hey, people do it.
I know there's actually the best CSR I've ever heard was a dude.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Works for Plumline.
Gotcha.
He answered a lot of prospectors' calls, and the dude was phenomenal. I can't remember his name.
Dang it.
He was freaking phenomenal.
Wish you could remember his name. He didn't get that. He'd get that shout
Your
out.
wife would remember his name.
Probably.
Yeah, he was awesome. Best CSR I've ever heard. Okay, so you're going to call back, offer him a discount, 15%, and then you're going to give your CSRs 5% commission, and you're still hitting 60% net margins on those jobs. Here's the cool part. The CSRs at the beginning of the month want your technicians to hit that number as soon as possible.
Yeah, because then they can start making commission quicker.
So now they're incentivized to work with your technicians to help them make the most money possible.
Yeah.
Your technicians also want to hit that number as soon as possible, because then the jobs that they've already done all the pre-work for, they just have to go back and do them.
Yeah, like if the estimates weren't sold or the customer had to think about it, or maybe they didn't, sticker shock was too high or something.
Typically, it's bigger jobs.
Yeah, because they're like,
so you get to sell a bunch of big work that they get to go do and make a commission on at the end of the month.
And then the CSR is stoked because then they get 5% of the big jobs.
So what happens is your CSRs and your technicians magically start working together. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, I really love the idea, and I think this is so true that like good business systems solve culture problems.
Culture is created with a good business system.
Yeah.
That's what I've come to realize.
Yeah. Yeah, because so much we think that, and if you go back and listen to our old conversations around culture, is we'll talk about like what people think culture is and what they do. And we have some good ideas in there, but we were missing the systems part.
Dude.
Because the systems part, like take away, because like culture is so hard to get your mind around, because really you're trying to convince humans to feel good about their crappy situation that they have no control over.
Yep. There's two parts to culture, and it's really simple. You put a system in where everybody wins, and there's no cap on opportunity.
Would you define winning as making more money?
Yes.
Okay.
Where you can come to work and you can do a good job, and the system is there where you can put in effort and make more money.
Yeah. And like actual money, not just like stupid, like, oh, I got a $5 gift card at the end of the week. Like that's stupid.
Okay. You put that system in place, and then anybody who comes to work and is a dick or whines about the system, you fire them.
Yeah.
You just get rid of them.
Yeah.
And you put somebody in that seat who will come in and work in the system and make more money.
And it'll be really obvious when your crappy people come to work, because they just won't hit your threshold. Like for technicians, they won't hit your threshold.
They won't hit your threshold, right? So for technicians, you have a minimum, right?
Yeah. So if they don't sell the minimum, then
and you should come up with minimums for your CSRs as well. We get this many phone calls, you got to answer this many.
Yeah, you have
got
to
book
this many percentage, answer this percentage. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Because those are efficiency metrics too. That will then, those efficiency metrics. Everything is downstream from there, like your technicians, conversion rates, all that kind of stuff.
For CSRs, I find it easier just to say, you have to actually do your job, because their job isn't that difficult, and it's very easy to say, here's your phone script.
Yeah,
you need to follow it.
Yeah.
And if you follow this, you're going to book jobs. I don't even need to track your booking percentage. I just need to know if you're following the script or not. Because if you follow the freaking script, you're going to book the jobs.
Yeah.
If you want the script, it's in our playbook. www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook.
Nice.
Or click the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, it's a great system. And then culture, fire dickheads.
Yeah, sure.
Like hit the minimums. If they're smashing records, but they're a dick, got to get rid of them.
Yeah, because like they'll smash records, but then everybody else will not. They'll underperform, and then you don't want to lose those people for the sake of the dickhead.
Yeah,
that sucks. Cut that, castrate that much.
I say dickhead because
dickhead.
No, who's the social media guy? Gary V.
Yeah.
He had a quote that says, "Joy doesn't come from free donuts. Joy comes from firing dickheads." And he's totally right. Yeah. Like people think that bringing in donuts and all these extra perks are going to make their employees happy. And it's not, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's actually so true. It's so funny.
You bring in donuts every Monday, they come to expect donuts.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And it doesn't make them happy whatsoever.
Especially if the dickhead's still there.
Yeah, so save your time and save your money and forget the donuts. Fire the dickhead and put a system in place. Well, first put a system in place where they can win at work.
Yeah.
And then fire the dickheads.
What you might find, depending upon the type of people you work with, is that if they start to make more money and they genuinely appreciate the place that they work and the people they work with, they'll probably just bring in their own donuts.
Yeah.
And an employee-funded donut is so much more valuable to your business culture than a business owner-funded donut.
Here's the other thing. You might have dickheads in your business, and if you put in a good commission structure, they all of a sudden stop being dickheads.
Because if they have to be less of a dickhead to make more money, they might make that sacrifice.
They do.
True.
Because all of a sudden they start to realize, I make more money if the CSRs send me to better calls. I better quit being a dickhead to the CSR so they send me to good calls.
Yeah, wait a second. They somehow control my ability to make money.
Interesting.
And if I just am nice to them, they'll give me better opportunities. Life lessons being learned by all.
Okay, so let's get to the last piece of the financial system, which would be the membership.
Yeah.
I feel like there's one more.
There's follow-up, but that's sort of wrapped into the...
We just kind of covered that.
Yeah, because the CSRs, once they hit that revenue threshold, now they're following up on these unsold estimates. They're offering the discount, therefore getting their commission, and therefore making the technicians more money.
Amen.
At very high margins.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, the BTW, all the stuff we just talked about, made me $240,000 the month before I sold my business.
Like made you like in your bank
Cash
account?
in my bank account.
Yeah, wow.
In 1 month.
In 1 month.
Yes.
Yeah.
These systems. And since I sold it, so that was the best profit month we've ever had as a business. That was the second highest revenue month. And then since I sold it, they just beat that record for the second highest revenue month again.
That's so awesome.
It is
good
awesome.
for them. That's cool.
No,
I like
super
that.
dope.
Yeah. Huh.
Feels good to be able to say, I sold you a good business.
Yeah. Look, it's doing better. It's actually doing better. And then I'm gone. It's like still ramping up. That's super rad.
Yeah, it is rad.
Memberships.
Don't overthink it. Okay. One thing, let's go back to commission. One thing I want to talk about is spiffs.
Ah, yes. Spiffs.
Don't do spiffs.
Spoofs.
Spoofs.
Sporfs.
Sporfs.
Remember spoon?
Yeah, I was
You should
dumb.
call them spoons.
I'm gonna make you eat cheesecake with your hands if you say spoon again. I'm gonna tie your hands behind your back and make you like chomp on it.
Why wouldn't you tie my hands behind my back and make me eat a cheesecake with a spoon?
I would never do that.
Okay. That'd be really hard too.
Eating with a spoon?
No, with you almost said it right. It's spoon.
Yeah. Dude, I'm gonna get a new podcast person.
So we'll have 3 of them? 3 of us total? You get another one of me? That'd be fun, man. I'm down.
Yeah, that's how it's gonna work.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to meet him.
It's gonna have really good jokes.
Wait, better than my jokes?
Yeah.
It's obviously not possible.
Okay. Commission, don't pay spiffs.
Yeah.
Please.
And a spiff is just what, like bonus
Like
money
a
for
one-time
rando
payment
things?
for rando thing. Just don't do it. It'll eat your margins, it'll ruin your culture, and it becomes a tracking nightmare.
Yeah, sure. And then because it's a tracking nightmare, you're gonna make mistakes. Your guys are gonna get pissed because they didn't get spiffed on the thing.
And it takes the focus off of the thing that you really want to do, which is drive revenue and customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
And your commission structure does that just fine, so don't do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes people will give spiffs for memberships and all that kind of stuff.
Don't do it. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Memberships. $99 a year. 10 to 15% off. You could go 10 to 20% off. I read an article. We did 10% off in my business. I read an article that said 15% off has the highest conversion rate.
When you're going to sell the membership?
15% off has the highest conversion rate when you're giving a discount across the board.
Okay.
There was a large study done across multiple retailers of all sorts of different kinds, and 15% off had the highest conversion rates and the highest amount of money brought in from the sale.
Gotcha.
Right?
Makes sense.
So it was kind of the best all-around discount. That's why we chose to do 15% off when the CSRs are doing their follow-up because of that study. Knowing that, I would probably do a membership at 15% off. So I would say for $99 a year, you get 15% off all of our services. You're going to work that into your pricing. You are not going to say, this is what I have to charge and then discount at 15%. you're going to say, if I discount 15%, this is what my pricing is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you discount 15%, you still make money.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you're going to offer priority service, no dispatch fees, and access to special discounts.
Yep.
Promotions,
Super
special
simple.
promotions, monthly promotions, access to monthly promotions.
Sure, because then you have a marketing tool too.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
cool.
you're going to send one email out a
that's super
month to
smart.
all of your memberships that just has some sort of promotion.
Yeah, and you say this promotion we're running a special on thing. If you're a member, you
Yes.
have access to it.
Yes. And you're going to run those
that's awesome.
promotions based on things where you have increased efficiency. And if it looks like you're giving them away, you're still making money on it.
Yeah.
For instance, toilets, buy 2, get 1 free. It costs you maybe 30 minutes and the extra cost of the toilet to do that third toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sell 2 full price toilets and you go to install a third one, you become so much more efficient that you can actually do that and still make margin.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the kind of promotions you're going to run to get people to buy 3 toilets.
Yeah. Or to get people to buy 2 toilets. Because they're like, well, I get a third one for free.
Yeah. Buy 2, get 1 free.
Yeah.
Technically they're buying 3.
Yeah.
So what you would do is you would say, okay, to install 3 toilets is going to take this much time. It's going to cost me this much money in materials. I need to hit this margin on it. I'm going to be this efficient on it. Here's my margin on it. Okay, here's the cost for 3 toilets. Take the cost, make the cost for each toilet half of that cost.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're not really giving it away for free. You're covering it in the cost of the 2 toilets.
Right.
Okay, cool. Those are the kind of discounts you're going to run. Promotions you're going to
Yeah.
run.
Promotions.
Literally don't do any other type of membership.
Yeah. Don't do any service contracts.
No service contracts. $99 a year for special benefits.
Yeah.
That's it.
And don't do like sort of like what you did originally with your tune-up thing, where it was a service contract, but then they paid it out monthly because then at scale, one, it clogs your schedule with 0 revenue jobs, but then it just becomes a payment collection nightmare.
Yeah, you become a collection agency.
Yeah, which is not fun to call people and be like, hey man, you got to pay $49.
Yeah.
Like those are just dumb calls that suck to make.
Super dumb. And it doesn't make any money.
No.
It literally does. I mean, it does a really good job of holding on to customers, but it doesn't make you any money.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Rad, dude.
That's it.
Cool.
That's the financial system.
Done.
Okay. Go download our playbook, grab our free calculator, www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook. Click the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. When you go grab that sucker, all you got to do is put in your email. If you've watched this far, congrats. But all you got to do is put in your email. We will email you the calculator. It's likely going to end up in your junk mail. After that, you can book a call with Joel. He'll actually call you on the phone.
Yep, exclusively.
Which is pretty dope.
So if you really made it to this long to the podcast, you've earned that special privilege.
Yes.
Because people will leave because we talk about bullshit and they're like, and then they miss all this cool stuff.
Yeah. So you can book a 15-minute call with Joel where he'll talk to you about our training program. We have a training program. It's a series of videos that you can walk through, plus a community, plus live Zoom calls with myself to help you out and walk you through all this stuff. And it's well worth it. We got guys in there. We've got guys that have started their business 6 months later. They're on track to do $1 million a year.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people are like, I was losing money and now I'm making double.
Yeah.
Just a few months later.
Yeah.
Like the resources and the help you get are well worth the cost of it. I would give it away for free, but somebody's got to pay for, fancy cameras and junk.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody does.
Not me.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Jared.
We need a sign off.
Jared and Joel signing off.
Signing off.
Boom.